Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for Wow Me Wednesday for some quick tips and tricks for you to gain confidence in your public speaking skills. Today I'm going to tackle job interviews part 2. So if you are interviewing for jobs, today's video, last week's video, and next week's video are a series for you. So hopefully they help for your upcoming interview. Today we're going to tackle 2 very common questions that we often get in interviews. What are your strengths and weaknesses? But before we dive into how to answer those questions, I really want to stress that whatever interview, whatever kind of job industry you're applying for, you need to be authentic. So, because the interviewer is going to see right through you. Whatever examples I'm giving today, please don't use them unless they actually apply to you. So use these as, again, examples and some tips, but hopefully I'm going to give you some substance to be able to come up with your own answers that pertain to your qualities and your line of work. So another thing I want to preface with too is to talk about yourself not in a way that's listing all your qualities to the point where you're bragging about all the great things that you've done and all your promotions and what's on your resume, because the interviewers can read that right in front of them. You want to show that you have substance, you have a personality, you're a human being, and a human being isn't just perfect with all these accolades. Your resume, yes, is what summarizes your experience and your accomplishments, but you as a person, you can obviously show that you do have some weaknesses, some growth that you've experienced as well. So again, be authentic and share substance with your interviewers. That said, let's move on. So the questions, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And thanks to one of my viewers, Rick, for sharing a question that he gets or he has gotten before. Not only what are your strengths, but when were you made aware of them? And I've never gotten that before, but I love the second part of that question because it's asking you for an example of your strength and stories. And I stress that anyways. You should share examples, evidence of your strength, and some stories from your past work history. So how do you answer what are your strengths and how were you made aware of them? First thing to think of is what's in the job description. What kinds of qualities are they looking for? So that makes it pretty easy, right? So you can address some of those qualities your interviewers, the employers, are looking for. Maybe if there is a lot of teamwork involved in the job that you're going for, you can talk about how you're a strong communicator and how you work well with a diverse group of people. Maybe you're going to go for a supervisor position, so you could talk about how you're a good listener and how that's important for you to be able to listen to your teammates, to their concerns, so you can help them through it. If you are going for an accountant position or a position in an accounting firm, you could talk about how you are analytical. But again, if you just say the qualities, it's only surface level, right? How do they actually know that these are your strengths? That's where you back it up with stories and examples. And when were you made aware of them? So that's what I find really fascinating. So when it comes to being a team player, for instance, you could go back to your childhood and you really don't have to think, okay, when was I really made aware of when I was a good team player? I honestly can't remember when I was made aware of that, but I know growing up, I was on many teams. I was a cheerleader, I danced too. Many of you were probably athletes, so maybe you were on a basketball team and the track team and the football team. So you can talk about all these various teams that you've been on, diverse groups for sure. But then also, not only will you relate it to your childhood, but then you bring it to your professional life too. So you can talk about how in your childhood or maybe in your high school days, you really earned and you really understood and this idea of teamwork, and that grew from there. And once you entered the workforce, you saw how those leadership skills, as well as the ability to listen to your teammates, work together and share the glory, was used in your workplace as well. And think of specific examples. Pay attention to your job evaluations. So in your current position, you probably have maybe yearly evaluations. So pay attention to what your supervisors and what your colleagues mention about you, so that if you were to apply for another job in the future, you could share some of those qualities and think about examples from that job. So I love that question. What are your strengths and when were you made aware of them? Hey, maybe even reach out to your parents and talk about some of your qualities and when they noticed your growth of your strengths. So how about the weaknesses question, right? Makes us a little nervous to talk about our weaknesses. That means we have to be vulnerable. But this is your opportunity to show your growth and your ability to overcome challenges. So what are your weaknesses? One, you also want to think about the job description. You want to avoid talking about weaknesses that are important for the job. So for instance, if you are applying for an administrative assistant position, you don't want to talk about how you're disorganized, right? Because being organized is really important for that job. If you are applying for a marketing and sales position, you could talk about, you may not want to, but you could talk about how you are nervous when speaking in front of an audience. The reason why I say you could talk about this is because if you are working on it by attending Toastmasters or tuning into my videos and practicing and putting yourself out there to be able to grow your public speaking skills, then that demonstrates how you are willing to step out of your comfort zone to be able to attain another quality and grow. So whatever weakness you share, you want to be able to spin it so that it demonstrates your willingness to learn. One that I tend to share, and it's really true, is that I can be a perfectionist. I'm quite detail-oriented and very focused on making sure whatever I get out there is perfect. From social media posts to marketing plans, I am very diligent and want to do it perfect, even if it's up to the last minute. And so when I share that, yes, I'm a perfectionist, but I also spin it so that I'm very detail oriented, but you give me a deadline and I'm going to meet it. So that's how I spin my weakness. So I hope these were helpful for you tonight. I'm going to answer some more questions next week. Thank you for those of you who typed in some interview questions that you've grappled with in the past. If I didn't get to them tonight, then I hope to get to them next week. I want to break these up into digestible videos that are theme oriented. So again, I'll be sharing more job interview tips next week. And if you want to reach out, leave a comment below or feel free to email me at jessica@jessicachangconsulting.com. Thanks everyone. I'll see you next week.